familiar, but I can't remember. Do you remember Jagannath? Upendra Mishra had 7 sons, who were all saintly and most influential. The names of his sons were Kamsari, Paramananda, Padmanabha, Sarveshvara, Jagannatha, Janardana, and Chailokyanath. Jagannath Mishra, the 5th son, decided to reside on the bank of the Ganges at Nadia. So Upendra Mishra was the father of Jagannath Mishra, of course. So, father of Jagannath Mishra was designated as Purandara, exactly like Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev. He was an ocean of all good qualities. His wife, Srimati Sachi Devi, was a chaste woman, highly devoted to her husband. Sachi Devi's father's name was Nilambar, and his surname was Chakravarti. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasya, in the Gora Ganodesha Dipika, it is mentioned that Nilambar Chakravarti was formerly Gargamuni. Some of the family descendants of Nilambar Chakravarti still live in the village of the name Magdoba in the district of Faridpur in Bangladesh. His nephew was Jagannath Chakravarti, also known as Mamu Thakur, who became a disciple of Pandit Goswami in the state of Jagannath Puri as the priest of Tota Gopinath. Nilambar Chakravarti lived at Navadvip in the neighborhood of Korea. This fact is mentioned in the book Prema Vilas. Because he lived near the house of the Kazi, Kazi was also considered one of the maternal uncles of Lord Chaitanya. Kazi used to address Nilambar Chakravarti as Kaka or uncle. One cannot separate the residence of the Kazi from Vamana Pura because the tomb of the Kazi is still existing. Formerly, the place was known as Velpapuria, and now it is called Vamanapur. This has been ascertained by archaeological evidence. That was from Bhakti-siddhanta Maharaj. So this is why when Lord Chaitanya showed up at Chand Kazi's home with hundreds of thousands of protesters, Kazi was taking action against the Harinam Sankirtan of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya marched to the house of the Kazi, and Kazi was hiding fearfully inside because it was quite a large crowd. They were not favorably disposed towards him. So, as he was hiding in the house, Lord Chaitanya sent somebody to get him to come out. When he came, he appealed to Lord Chaitanya like an uncle to a nephew, because he had this relationship with Chand Kazi as a neighbor of Nilambar Chakravarti. He would refer to Nilambar Chakravarti as his uncle, so he was almost like family. So he had that kind of closeness with the family of Lord Chaitanya. So he appealed to Lord Chaitanya to remember that relationship in that moment when everybody was quite upset. You can feel the mic? Because
it says here that Nilambar Chakravarti's nephew is Jagannath Chakravarti, and became such and such.
Can you speak up, please, Prabhu?
stayed at the Jagannath temple as the priest of Toda Gopinath. So our understanding that Toda Gopinath, Lord Chaitanya was with Gadadhar, so Lord Chaitanya, when he was in Jagannath Puri, was at least in his lifetimes of the odd 24. And he told Gadadhar, dig here. And that's when Toda Gopinath was supposedly discovered. But if Nilambar Chakravarti was the grandfather of Lord Chaitanya on his mother's side, and his nephew was the priest of the Toda Gopinath, then it stands to reason, there's always a possibility that, but generally, it would seem that Nilambar, Jagannath Chakravarti, was the nephew of Nilambar. Nilambar is the grandfather of Lord Chaitanya, so it stands to reason that Jagannath Chakravarti would be the same age as Lord Chaitanya's father, Jagannath Mishra. So the Toda Gopinath appeared when Lord Chaitanya was a young man. It's difficult to determine how Jagannath Chakravarti was a priest of Toda Gopinath. You follow what I'm saying?
Could he not have become the pujari or the priest after the deity was discovered? Did you catch that? So he would have become the priest after the deity was discovered, right? That would resolve the. It seems to line up like he. It's just that he would have been he would have become the priest once the deity was present. Is that okay? Does that resolve it? Sure, but there's nothing there. Yeah. Sure. Uh, that's okay. So that was right. 61. In Radhadesh, part of Bengal where the Ganges is not visible, Nityananda Prabhu, Gangadas Pandit, Murari Gupta, and Mukunda took birth. Purport. Here, Radha Deshe refers to the village of the name Ekachakra in the district of Birbhum next to Burdwan. After the Burdwan railway station, there is another branch line which is called the Loop Line of the Eastern Railway, and there is a railway station of the name Malarapur, 8 miles east of this railway station. Ekachakra village is still situated. Ekachakra village extends north and south for an area of about 8 miles. Other villages, namely Virachandrapura and Virabhadrapura, are situated within the area of the village of Ekachakra. In honor of the holy name of Virabhadra Goswami, these places are renowned as Virachandrapura and Virabhadrapura. In the Bengali year 1331, AD 1924, a thunderbolt struck the temple of Ekachakra Gram. Therefore, the temple is now in a broken state. It was quite a long purport, actually. A few pages. Before this, there were no accidents in that quarter. Within the temple, there is a deity of Sri Krishna established by Sri Nityananda Prabhu. The name of the deity is Bankim Roy or Banka Roy. So this original temple was damaged by a lightning bolt. On Bankim Roy's right side is the deity of Janava, and on his left side is Srimati Radharani. The priest of the temple described that Lord Nityananda Prabhu entered within the body of Bankim Roy, and that the deity of Janava Mata was therefore later placed on the right side of Bankim Roy. Afterwards, many other deities were installed within the temple. On another throne within the temple are deities of Murlidhar and Radha Madhava. On another throne are deities of Manomohan, Vrindavan Chandra, and Gornitai. The Bankim Roy is the deity which was installed by Nityananda. On the eastern side of the temple is a ghat known as Kadamba Kandi on the bank of a river called the Yamuna. It is said that the deity of Bankim Roy was floating in the water, and Lord Nityananda picked him up and then installed him. Thereafter, in a place known as Padapura, in the village of Virachandrapura, about half-mile west, in a place underneath a neem tree, Srimati Radharani was found. For this reason, the Radharani in Bankim Roy was known as Budapurera Thakurani, the mistress of Badadpur. Badadpur Thakurani, mistress of Badadpur. On another throne on the right side of Bankim Roy is the deity of Yogamaya. Now the temple and the temple corridor rest on a high plinth, and on a concrete structure in front of the temple is a kirtan hall. It is also said that on the northern side of the temple there was a deity of Shiva named Bandishwar, and that the father of Nityananda Prabhu, Adai Pandit, used to worship that deity. At present, however, the Bandishwar deity is missing, and in this place a Jagannath Swami deity is installed. Lord Nityananda Prabhu did not actually construct any temples. The temple was constructed at the time of Virabhadra Prabhu in the Bengali year 1298, AD 1891. A brahmachari of the name of Shivananda Swami prepared the temple for it to become dilapidated. In this temple, there is an arrangement to offer food to the deity on the basis of 17 seers, about 34 pounds, of rice. 17 seers of rice, with 34 pounds of rice and necessary vegetables. The present priestly order of the temple belongs to the family of Gopijan Vallabhananda, one of the branches of Nityananda Prabhu, one of the branches. There is a land settlement in the name of the temple, and income from this land finances the expenditures for the temple. There are 3 parties of priestly Goswamis who take charge of the temple management, one after another. A few steps from the temple is a place known as Vishramatala, where it is said that Nityananda Prabhu in his childhood used to enjoy sporting with his boyfriends by acting the Rasa Leela and various other pastimes of the life. Near the temple is a place named Amalitala, which is so named because of a big tamarind tree there. According to a party named the Nadadi Sampradaya, Virabhadra Prabhu, with the assistance of 1,200 Nedas, Buddhist monks, dug a great lake of the name Svetaganga. Outside of the temple are tombs of the Goswamis, and there is a small river known as the Mogeshwar, which is called the water of Yamuna. Within half a mile from the small river was the birthplace of Sri. It appears that there was a big kirtan hall in front of the temple that later became dilapidated. It is now covered by banyan trees. Later on, a temple was constructed within which Gaur and Nityananda deities are existing. The temple was constructed by the late Prasanna Kumar Caritamrta. A tablet was installed in his memory in the Bengali year 1323, AD 1916, in the month of Vaishakha. The place where Nityananda Prabhu appeared is called Garbhavas. There is an allotment of about 43 bighas, 14 acres of land, to continue the worship in a temple there. The Maharaj of Dinajapur donated 20 bighas of land, about 6.5 acres, in this connection. It is said that near the place known as Garbhavas, Adai Pandit conducted a primary school. Priests of this place listed in the genealogical table were as follows: Sri Raghavachandra 1, Sri Raghavachandra 2, Jagadananda Das 3, Krishnadas 4, Nityananda Das 5, Ram Das 6, Raj Mohan Das 7, Kanai Das 8, Gauradas 9, Shivananda Das, and 10, Haridas. These are the priests. Krishnadas belonged to the Chidya Kunj at Vrindavan. The date of his disappearance is Krishna Janmashtami. Chidya Kunj is a place now managed by the Goswamis of Sringar Ghat in Vrindavan. They are also known as belonging to the Nityananda family, most probably on the basis of their relationship to Krishnadas. Near Garbhavas is a place called Vakalutala, where Sri Nityananda Prabhu and his boyfriends used to take part in sporting activities known as Jala Japaka. There in a bakul tree, there is a bakul tree there that is wonderful because all its branches and sub-branches look like cupids and serpents. It has been suggested that by the desire of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Anantadev manifested himself in that way. The tree is very old. It is said that formerly it had 2 trunks, but later on, when the playmates of Nityananda Prabhu felt the convenience of jumping from the branches of one trunk to the other, Nityananda Prabhu, by his mercy, merged the 2 trunks. Another place nearby is named Antugada. It is said that Lord Nityananda Prabhu brought all the holy places there. Therefore, the people in the surrounding villages go there instead to the Ganges to take bath. It is named Antugada because Srila Nityananda Prabhu used to perform the Dadi Chita festival, distributing chipped rice with yogurt prasadam there, and he took the prasadam kneeling down. A sanctified lake in this place is always full of water throughout the year. A great fair is held there during Krishnastami, and there is another big fair on the birthday of Sri. In the Gaur Vandash Deepika 5863, it is described that Ola Yudha, Baladev, Vishwarupa, and Shankarshan appeared as Nityananda Avadhuta. That was a lot of description of Ekachakra. I'm sorry? Yeah, it's important because Prabhupada's establishing the historical and geographical legitimacy of these places. Ekachakra used to be a difficult place to travel to. I'm not sure it's a little bit better now. I went there once only. It was more than 20 years ago. And that was before the ISKCON temple was built. There was an ISKCON building, but it was mostly a residential building, a small temple with the, at that time, the site of the temple. I think the foundation was there even 20 years ago. And it was very, very serene, peaceful, clean place, where also there is a bhajan kutir of, I think it's Srila Rupa Goswami. Either Srila Rupa Goswami or Srila Sanatana Goswami, the bhajan kutir that actually went there expensive. There's also, at that time, 20 years ago, in a small temple, which was kind of almost like, not a hut, but a very small structure, that was accessible by walking through a paddy field. This little temple had deities of the Pandavas and Kunti. It was Kunti, yeah, because when they were in exile, they resided in that place for some time. So there were these nice deities of the Pandavas. Very, very pristine and beautiful place. I haven't been there since they built this temple. At the time, 20 years ago, it was very, very difficult to travel from Mayapur. It took many hours to get there and driving. And the road at that time was very, very poor condition. Very, very difficult driving. Not just through potholes. The road actually was practically broken. But I think now it's been upgraded quite a bit. So anyway, if anybody hasn't been to Chakra, it's a very, very beautiful, peaceful place. Definitely worth the effort. I think it takes time to get there down there. Traveling is not so difficult. Text 62. Lord Krishna, Rajendra Kumar, first caused countless devotees to appear, and at last he appeared himself. Before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees of Navadvip used to gather in the house of the Acharya. In these meetings of the Vaishnavas, Advaita Acharya used to recite the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, decrying the paths of philosophical speculation and fruit of activity, establishing the super excellence of devotional service. In all the revealed scriptures of Vedic culture, devotional service to Lord Krishna is explained throughout. Therefore, devotees of Lord Krishna do not recognize the process of philosophical speculation, mystic yoga, unnecessary austerity, and so-called religious rituals. They do not accept any process taught in devotional service. Purport. Our Krishna consciousness movement follows this principle. We do not recognize any method for spiritual realization other than Krishna consciousness, devotional service. Sometimes we are criticized by groups calling jnana, yoga, tapas, or dharma, but fortunately we are unable to make any compromise. We simply stand on the platform of devotional service and preach the same principles all over the world. Prabhupada says, but fortunately we are unable. Let me read that again. Sometimes we are criticized by groups following jnana, yoga, tapas, or dharma, but fortunately we are unable to make any compromise with them. We're greatly fortunate not to be able to compromise. We simply stand on the platform of devotional service and preach the same principles all over the world. When Prabhupada says here, we do not recognize any method for spiritual realization other than Krishna consciousness, devotional service, or bhakti. he's mentioning these other ones, jnana, yoga, tapasya, dharma, because any other method, any method for spiritual realization. So Prabhupada's saying that, we accept Krishna consciousness and the process of bhakti as a method of spiritual realization. We don't accept other paths that are delineated in the Vedas, such as jnana, yoga, tapasya, dharma. So it's important to understand what Prabhupada's saying is here that the Vedas, they describe various things, but the devotees don't take to the paths that are described in the Vedas other than bhakti. But this is not a sectarian statement by Srila Prabhupada. He's just expressing that bhakti is the means to spiritual realization. But even when Prabhupada was present, he was able to recognize bhakti. Like, because when Prabhupada would travel around, he would be able to, even interact with people, he would appreciate when he had the opportunity to meet with other people on the spiritual path. Not so much jnanis, yogis, tapasvis, or people who were just connected to, just wanting to execute perfect dharma, but he would encounter people who were generally trying to awaken their love for God through like the famous example is Prabhupada meeting this nun who was chanting on a rosary. Prabhupada asked her what she was chanting on her rosary, and it was a prayer to Jesus. And this discussion that Prabhupada had with the nun was actually pleasing to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada kind of blessed her to continue what she was doing. But she wasn't a jnani, a yogi, or a tapasvi, or something out of the Vedic literature. Prabhupada recognized the bhakti that she was cultivating. So,
Anya bilashita shunyam.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yeah, so Jagalinder was saying that Bhaktivinoda Thakur claimed there was bhakti within Christianity. At least Prabhupada also recognized that in some of his interactions with Christians that he came across. There was also some Franciscan monks, I believe, that he also, I'm not sure if that's in writing or if that was just in the memory tapes. I believe Yogeshwar Prabhu recounts that. Prabhupada meeting with some Franciscan monks, and Prabhupada being pleased with their consciousness as well. So, I'm sorry? Oh, Father Emmanuel, yeah, that's another one. Of course, Prabhupada did take exception to Christianity as well, in terms of their, like he challenged. What was that one in Paris where he challenged them on eating meat?
Denelu.
Denelu, Cardinal Denelu. So, Prabhupada wasn't like stereotyped. He wasn't like, seeing like categories, either religious or Vedic. His recognition came in his ability to, he could recognize the presence of bhakti, right? So, anyway, just to the point that Prabhupada's message in this purport is that of all of the paths in the Vedas, the devotees only accept bhakti. Sorry, was that Tweeja? Were you saying something?
I was just mentioning Srila Rupa Goswami's verse, Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadi and avrati. What is pure devotional service? What constitutes devotional service?
Free from karma, free from jnana, free from speculation, and then favorably for Krishna.
Yeah.
In the house of Advaitacharya, all the Vaishnavas took pleasure in always talking of Krishna, always worshiping Krishna, always chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Purport: on these principles only does the Krishna consciousness movement go on. We have no business other than to talk of Krishna, worship Krishna, and chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Text 67. But Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu felt pained to see all the people without Krishna consciousness simply merging in material sense enjoyment. Purport: the bona fide devotee of Lord Krishna is always pained to see the fallen condition of the whole world. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, there's no scarcity of anything within this world, but the only scarcity is of Krishna consciousness. That is the vision of all pure devotees. Because of this lack of Krishna consciousness in society, people are suffering terribly, being merged in an ocean of nations and sense gratification. A devotee onlooker is very much grieved to see such a situation in the world. Sometimes Prabhupada would drop tears. People observe. Lokera, text number 68. Seeing the condition of the world, he began to think seriously of how all these people could be delivered from the clutches of mind. Srila Advaitacharya Prabhu thought, if Krishna himself appears in order to distribute the cult of devotional service, then only will liberation be possible for all people. Purport: just as a condemned person can be relieved by special favor of the chief executive head, president, or king, so the condemned people of this Kali Yuga can be delivered only by the Supreme Personality of God himself, or a person especially empowered for this purpose. Srila Advaitacharya Prabhu desired that the Supreme Personality of Godhead invent himself to deliver the fallen souls of this age. Text 70. With this consideration, Advaita Acharya Prabhu, promising to cause Lord Krishna to descend, began to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, tulsi leaves, water of the Ganges. Purport: tulsi leaves and Ganges water, with, if possible, a little pulp of sandalwood, is sufficient paraphernalia to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:26, Patram pushpam halam tvayam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti paritam asnami kaitanmaha. One offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. Following this principle, Advaita Prabhu pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead with tulsi leaves and water of the Ganges. Text 71. By loud cries, he invited Krishna to appear, and this repeated invitation attracted Lord Krishna to descend. Before the birth of Lord Chaitanya Prabhu, 8 daughters took birth one after another from the womb of Sachimata, the wife of Jagannath Mishra. Just after their birth, they all died. Jagannath Mishra was very unhappy at the death of his children, one after another. Therefore, desiring a son, he worshipped the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. After this, Jagannath Mishra got a son of the name Vishvarupa, who was most powerful, highly qualified, because he was an incarnation of all days. Vishvarupa is the elder brother of Gaurahari, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When arrangements were being made for the marriage of Vishvarupa, he took sannyas and left home. He took the sannyas name of Shankararanya in 1431 Shakapta era, 1509. He disappeared in Pandarapur in the district of Sholapur as incarnation of Shankarshan, he is both the ingredient and immediate cause of creation of this material world. It is non-different from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For the Amsa and the Amsi, or the part and the whole, are not different. As the incarnation of Shankarshan, Vishwarup belongs to the quadruple manifestation of Chaturvyuha. In the Gora Chandrodaya, it is said that Vishwarup, after his so-called demise, remained mixed within Sri Nityananda Prabhu. I might like to clarify that. Right. Yeah, it's a little bit complicated. It's a little bit difficult to understand, right? But when Lord Krishna manifests, it's described that all of the different manifestations, all the different avatars, all manifest with him simultaneously. So that's quite difficult to understand. But, that's the case, and so also is the case with Sri Nityananda, with as much potency manifest at that time. It is Lord Balaram, but Lord Balaram, when he appears, the other manifestations also appear with him as well. I guess that's described here. That, while Vishwarup is the incarnation of Shankarshan, Shankarshan also manifests at the time of Lord Nityananda or the time of Lord Balaram. That's sufficient. That's about as far as I can go. Just elaborate on that. Text number 75. The expansion of Baladev, known as Shankarshan, in the spiritual world is the ingredient and immediate cause of the material cosmic manifestation. I believe earlier, like this point about the immediate and material world, it's also said before. So the ingredient and immediate cause of this material cosmic manifestation. There's these two aspects. And previously, when Advaita Acharya was being described, I believe that there was a distinction there, Advaita Acharya being one or the other, one of the two. So Lord Nityananda is both, but Advaita Acharya himself is also a manifestation of Anandasha, like Shankarshan somehow. He's a manifestation of either the immediate or ingredient. I can't remember right now. There's a technical point there. So I guess there's a certain level of scholarship involved in understanding all of these different amsas, right? Like there's a lot of technical terms that are there. And to be able to understand how all of these pieces fit together, it's probably quite purifying. And, especially for the intellect, understand how it all fits together. The descriptions are there, so because they're described, we can understand that they're for our benefit, even though it might be difficult to figure it all out sometimes, put all the pieces together. Right. Yes. Not everybody can understand quantum physics. Not everyone's going to pick up the Chaitanya Charitamrta and be able to understand all of the minute details about Krishna's expansions. Okay, text number 76. I'll just read a couple more verses. The gigantic universal form is called the Vishwarupa incarnation of Shankarshan. Thus we do not find anything within this cosmic manifestation except the Lord himself. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj gives this quote in the canto of Bhagavatam to substantiate this point. He says, as the threads in a cloth spread both lengthwise and breadthwise, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists directly and indirectly within everything we see in this cosmic manifestation. This is not very wonderful. Interesting.
Say it again.
This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 15, text 35. As the threads in a cloth spread both lengthwise and breadthwise, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists directly and indirectly within everything we see in this cosmic manifestation. This is not very wonderful for him. So the idea is that if you have a cloth, it just, when we see it, like this jacket or dhoti or whatever, we see the cloth as one piece without necessarily seeing taking note of the crossing of the threads. There's some threads that are going, they're lengthwise and some are breadthwise. But all through the substance of this dhoti is the thread. Although the thread seems to get lost, it's, because now the dhotis in the creation. Krishna is present as the threads of the cloth, lengthwise, breadthwise, where we see the entire creation and we're unaware of Krishna's presence as a thread, as threads going through the whole thing. And the other interesting thing is how this is connected with the idea of direct and indirect. I've thought about this a number of times because the creation has these two ingredients, direct and indirect. And I've never really been able to understand it because it seems like it's beyond my ability to really comprehend. But we've got here the indirect and direct ingredients, meaning compared to like the threads going lengthwise and breadthwise cloth. So it's another, as we read through the Chaitanya caritamrta, this is the verse. My dear Parikshit, that Lord Balaram killed Venkasura is not such a wonderful thing, considering that he is the unlimited personality of Godhead, controller of the entire universe. Indeed, the entire cosmos rests upon him just as a woven cloth rests upon its own horizontal and vertical threads. Yes. That's related to ball. So, I find it interesting. I'm not going to be able to unpack that or make any more sense out of it, but it's, as we read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we may come in, some of it's quite, philosophically difficult to understand, especially the technicalities about the expansions and the creation. And when we continuously read it again and again and again, we might get, each time we read it through, we might get another little thing that we notice that helps nudge the pieces a little closer into place. Anyway, so this is one to remember, this verse, if one sits down to study this, of these energies, one's going to study these energies of creation, then remember this verse from the 10th canto about the threads of this chapter, the Advent of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Seems like an important detail. So I think I'll stop there.